In both cases, the owners were out walking their dogs near popular trails just like this. Shoppers in southern Colorado were out in full force. Construction crews are working to board up the front of this church. Today marks 10 years since a deadly tsunami hit a dozen countries. Debris just like this flew everywhere. Even the garage door of the home was ripped off and it landed all the way across the street. In a separate case, she grabbed a can of blue paint and reportedly sprayed the victim in the face. I stopped by the sheriff's office looking for more answers.
He's an elected official. His calendar is public, so where is he?
There are just hundreds of exchanges between the sheriff and one of his female employees.
We understand it's a very difficult time right now as we search for your daughter Rose. This is a picture of her.
I'm headed north on Meade, and they say it's nearly impossible to see that stop sign. There are certain criteria, such as if a caseworker suspects the person may be using drugs, or if the person has missed several of the required appointments. A man involved in a sledding accident earlier this week has died. Now, skimmers are hidden in places where you swipe your card, like the ATM or a gas station. This is a picture of one that was hidden in an ATM. Can you tell? New at 10, it's a very cold night here in southern Colorado. We're talking single digits. Meteorologist Emily Roller starts us off tonight in the Weather Center. Emily, just how cold is it going to get? In New York City today, thousands of people lined up outside a church to pay their respects to a fallen police officer. Rafael Ramos and his partner were ambushed in their patrol car last week. Both officers died. Marley Hall has this report. And the gunman who killed Officer Ramos and Officer Liu committed suicide shortly after the shooting. Highway 50 is back open tonight after a couple of accidents caused problems this morning. The highway was closed between Salida and Canyon City after a vehicle hit a power pole. It caused the power lines to fall across the roadway. The crash happened just outside of Cotopaxi, and it took hours to restore power to folks in the area. Well, on this day after Christmas, shoppers in southern Colorado were out in full force. Here's how it looked this afternoon at the shops at Briargate. Some shoppers were looking for deep post-holiday discounts, while others were looking to return gifts they didn't want. Nationally, about 1/4 of all returns for the year happen right after Christmas. We talked to one shopper who was returning gifts today, but was also on the hunt to find those good deals.
We actually just came.
And if you're planning to head to the stores this weekend, you want to be sure to give yourself some extra time. Finding a parking space will be a bit of a challenge, of course, and things will be just as busy once you get inside those stores. And a family facing hardship this holiday season got a big gift today. New tonight, 11 News reporter Natasha Leba joins us now live with the story. Natasha, thanks. 11 minutes of nonstop news continues now with this tragedy the day after Christmas. A fire claimed the lives of a woman and her 3 grandchildren, the youngest only 9 years old. The parents of the children were just 2 homes away when the fire started. They ran to the house after spotting the flames, but were too late. Firefighters didn't know just what started the fire, but they say they haven't found any smoke detectors in the home. The sheriff says the grandmother did try to save the children.
The grandmother.
The kids were spending the night with their grandmother because they didn't want her to be alone on Christmas. Today marks 10 years since a deadly tsunami hit a dozen countries around the Indian Ocean rim. In Thailand, the tragedy was commemorated with the release of these hundreds of lanterns right into the night sky. The event symbolizing the release of spirits of the dead. The tsunami killed more than 5,000 people in Thailand, about half of which were tourists on vacation. And now a look at your no-wait weather with meteorologist Emily Roller. Wow, we're going to be dipping into some cold temps starting next weekend. Construction crews are working to board up the front of this church. You can see just a gaping hole there where the driver slammed right into the front glass windows. Now here's what happened. Police told me the driver was headed north here on Nevada when he lost control, jumped over the median into the southbound lanes, and then all the way up on the front lawn. You can see the tire tracks. Ultimately, he came to a stop right there in the church, but thankfully he was not hurt. Take a look now at this video. This all happened around 2:30 today. You can see the car is lodged right there in the building. The hood is crumpled and there's broken glass all over the inside of the church. We talked with a pastor who was inside when this happened.
I walked to the north end of the property.
And police also told me the driver was likely going too fast for the weather conditions. He has now been ticketed with careless driving. So just a good reminder for all of us, if we're out and about tonight, to take it slow. Right now, a local group is studying Fountain Creek and the flooding damage from here in Colorado Springs all the way up Highway 24. Tonight, I talked to folks who live in Green Mountain Falls who say they just can't afford to keep fixing their properties every time it rains.
This used to be our driveway.
Flash flooding destroyed the only way in or out of Jeremy Watchter's home in Green Mountain Falls. Now he's forced to dart across Fountain Creek if he wants to leave. He says it's a perpetual problem.
We've rebuilt this driveway 7 times since we've owned this home.
And that's in less than 2 years. His neighbor, Rebecca Pike,
The water came over the top of the wall.
spent $9,000 to repair an 11-foot retaining wall from last year's flooding. But after yesterday's storm, she's right back where she started.
How many times can you pour $9,000 into your backyard and then have it wash away?
Tonight, Rebecca was one of the homeowners who went to an open house meeting about what can be done to Fountain Creek to protect their homes. Folks used a Sharpie to mark where their homes are on this map.
We want to hear from them on what their problems are.
Their goal is to identify the problem spots and come up with a restoration plan to get the necessary funding and get it fixed. But until that happens, local folks like Jeremy and Rebecca are left in limbo.
I don't know what to do. We can't afford this. We're normal people.
The residents in the downhill communities can't continue to repair at their own cost.
Now, the final report on what can be done to Fountain Creek is expected to wrap up in June of next year. As far as the funding, though, for the restoration project, I'm told it will come from city and county dollars, so basically the taxpayers. Reporting live in Colorado Springs, Kristin Haubrich, KKTV 11 News.
I've got a intoxicated Buffy McFadden out here. I don't have her DUI. I mean, maybe just because she's sitting in the driver's seat, but vehicle's off, so we're good there. I just need to, I don't know, she's kind of being mouthy.
This is dash cam video from January 25th, the night a Pueblo deputy found Commissioner Buffy McFadden behind the wheel of her parked SUV. She tells him she's had 1 glass of wine. The deputy says she's intoxicated.
I think you might need to call for a ride.
I will do that.
I think you might have had a little bit too much.
I'll have him drive me home.
Okay, and you haven't been drinking, sir? No. Okay. Can I just talk to you outside real quick so I can make sure I don't smell any alcohol on you?
Democratic Party chair in the passenger seat of McFadden's SUV failed a sobriety test. Then they're allowed to call for a ride home. After numerous requests today to interview the Pueblo County Sheriff about why the deputy didn't test Commissioner McFadden, we were told to find their response to our investigation on their Facebook page. So I stopped by the sheriff's office looking for more answers.
He's an elected official. His calendar is public, so where is he?
Minutes later, the undersheriff comes out to talk briefly.
We made comment of that particular call on our website.
Okay. I don't think it's acceptable to respond on Facebook when I'm asking in person for answers.
I got you.
Why was she not given a sobriety test?
It was a suspicious vehicle that was already pulled over. It was in a park and ride area, and that was the officer's discretion.
I went to Commissioner McFadden's office to see if she wanted to talk on camera.
Is she not in the office?
She's definitely in the office. They had a board meeting this morning, but she's in a meeting. I can take your number.
Or we could wait.
And I waited for 2.5 hours, but she never came out. I tried to reach the man who was in Commissioner McFadden's SUV that night. He wasn't at the Democratic headquarters.
Hello?
And he wasn't at home either. So I asked the former Pueblo County Sheriff what he would have done. He says this situation would have ended with a DUI ticket and not a ride home.
Is this a new policy of the sheriff's office? That's the question for me. And now, is this same application going to be for everybody? Because what's good for In this case, Commissioner McFadden is obviously good for the general public.
Diane, she's okay. She's still pretty shaken up, but she had no idea what might happen when a stranger barged right into her house, right past her and her 5-year-old daughter. She says he was wearing nylon pantyhose covering his face. She couldn't see who he was. And as you'll soon see, things are hard enough already for this mom just trying to raise her child.
Get these ones, the refrigerator.
Amy Sanchez and her daughter are trying to get back to their normal routine tonight, but it's hard. She can't seem to shake the images of the criminal who shoved his way into her house.
Today I had to call my sister-in-law just to walk out the front door.
The home invasion happened yesterday at 3 in the afternoon. Sanchez has to use a wheelchair. She lost a leg, and she has a skin disorder that makes life tough. When she heard a knock at the door, she thought a friend was stopping by, not a thief.
So I opened the door, and I was parked right here like this against the door, and I had the door blocked like this, and he pushed his way in.
She says the robber charged in and headed right to her daughter's bedroom.
And then he grabbed my daughter's pink Kindle that was right here.
He scooped up electronics and then ran back out the door. Sanchez called police, but the criminal got away. Now, this mother wants to caution all of us tonight for the next time we hear a knock at the door.
If you don't know who's at that door, don't open it, because it's scary, really scary, especially when you're someone that you can't fight back.
And listen to this. Amy Sanchez told me the crook tried to grab a bottle of her medicine, but he dropped it on the way out. And that might be his downfall, because police officers now have that bottle and they're working to pull his fingerprints from it. These emails were obtained from a sheriff's office computer right here behind me at the sheriff's office. As you can see, there are just hundreds of exchanges between the sheriff and one of his female employees. That female employee forwarded herself those emails as if she was trying to save them.
Emails and texts date back to February of 2008. At the time, this woman, Doreen Cardarell, had been newly hired as a budget analyst for the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. She was making $51,000 a year. These emails and texts are romantic and sexual in nature. Things like this one, dated December 7, 2008, from Makita to Cardarell, quote, "I get such a content feeling when my hands feel your skin," end quote. And this one from December of 2009, where Makita emails Cardarell and says, quote, "For the last 2.5 years, I truly felt and believe you were my first and only true love, friend, and soulmate," end quote. The exchanges go on for nearly 2 years. During that time, KKTV 11 News has learned that Cardarell was moved up in the rankings to comptroller at the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. It appears something went south in the relationship with the sheriff. In July of 2011, Makita writes a formal email assigning her to a task. She says someone else should do it. He says it's your job. The emails are a different tone. What exactly happened between the sheriff and that employee is unclear. Today, she showed up at the county commissioners meeting as they called for Sheriff Makita to step down.
I'm asking the sheriff, along with my colleagues, put others before yourself. In great humility, gain back the respect of the citizens that you once had, and do the right thing and resign.
What we know as of now, she's still employed with the sheriff's office and making more than $100,000 a year.
And also obtained by 11 News, emails between the sheriff and another female employee he's accused of having an affair with. That employee was at the center of an internal affairs investigation.